Hello and welcome to Inside Music, episode number 147. I'm your host, James Shotwell, and it's great to be with you again. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time a performance changed your life? And I'm not talking about seeing your favorite band and them being everything you ever thought they would be. I'm talking about seeing a band you've never seen before and walking away feeling as if you've just fallen in love for the first time. That happened to me last March when I was attending one of Hot Mulligan's album release shows when I caught a band called Jetty Bones out of Ohio. I can't really tell you what it was about their set or about the music, but something about what was happening on stage connected with me on a very deep and personal level. Since that time, I've been telling everyone that would listen to me about this group, and now I have a chance to finally bring their founding member, Kelsey, on the show to discuss the group's upcoming EP, Hyphen, which is due out February 22nd through Take This to Heart Records. Kelsey is one of my favorite musicians today, and she's a fantastic songwriter who pulls off this very delicate balance of writing songs that are fairly straightforward on the surface, but actually contain depths that many of her peers are not yet able to match. Hyphen deals a lot with domestic abuse, trauma, and recovery, but it also has this almost intangible element of fun to the whole proceedings that lets you know that even though things are bad right now, even though you may have gone through something completely horrific that you cannot possibly think about talking to others about yet, there is hope, there is a chance for a better day, and things will get better if you stick with it. And I don't know, it's the kind of album that you just feel like we need right now in 2019, and I'm so excited for her to be on the show to talk to you about it. Before we get there are a few quick things we need to go over. First and foremost, this episode of Inside Music and all episodes of Inside Music are brought to you by Holix, the music industry's leading promotional distribution company. And what that means is that Holix works with record labels, publicists, management, and independent artists from all over the world to share new and unreleased music without fear of piracy. To learn more about that and gain access to a free 30-day trial, visit holix.com. That's HAULIX.com. I also want to encourage you to follow us on Twitter. We used to have an account just for the podcast, but now everything is folded into Holix, so it's just at Holix. One more time, HAULIX. And finally, make sure you pick up that Jetty Bones EP. It's called Hyphen, and it's in stores February 22nd to 22 through Take This to Heart Records. It's going to make your top 10 list. I'm just going to say it right now. It's going to be one of your favorite albums of the year. And right now, for the next 20 minutes or so, you can hear Kelsey talk about it at length. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
He was a rescue, so I've had him for about 4 years now, and I think he was around 6 to 10 months when I got him, so he's getting old.
Yeah, my cats are about the same age, and one of them is a rescue. One of them, I guess I claim I rescued them both. One of them I actually found in like a blizzard, and then the other one I just bought from a very terrible looking home, so I just consider them both rescues, but I understand that.
Yeah, you're definitely putting the work in. You get credit for that.
Exactly. What's your cat's name?
Albus Lester Bones. He's an albino cat, and they had already named him Albie at the shelter, so I just wanted to give him a formal name since he is technically my first son that I have as an adult, but he still just goes by Albie.
I'm a big believer in giving cats a middle name and a full name. I feel like they're part of the family. They deserve a full name.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's kind of become like the mascot cat for the band, so Bones is just like a perfect last name for him.
Oh, absolutely. Are you in Ohio right now? Is that where you're from?
Yeah, yep. I live out in the heckin' country in Ohio. I'm like an hour to 2 hours away from like most of the cities, so it's a nice little escape to my little cove out here.
Well, I'm originally from like the Findlay area, so I know a little bit about Ohio. What part of the middle of nowhere, Ohio, are you in?
Okay, I'm like 2 hours south of Toledo, almost exactly, and an hour west of Columbus.
Okay, so yeah, that is pretty nowheresville.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone really appreciates it until they're actually driving through that area. Like sometimes I'll drive from I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan, so sometimes I'll drive from like here to Cincinnati, and you get to go through that strip of nothing in that space.
Yeah, actually, to get there from Grand Rapids, you'd probably drive uh like 20 minutes ish from my house, depending on what route you take. But I don't know, it's nice. Like off the beaten path or whatever. But especially when we have bands who are friends come through, if they have an off day or something, it's kind of nice to have a place that they can stay that's not surrounded by a bunch of people, kind of get like a little escape from all of the hecticness.
Absolutely. And in trying to build your band and get your name out there, I think it's good for artists that live kind of in the middle of nowhere because you don't have like city rent, as I like to call it. Like you just don't have, I have to make $2,000 this month to pay for my studio apartment, and then I also have to find time to work on the band.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, dude, okay, so like has worked out really well on my side because I've had three different roommates since I've lived here, but only one at a time. So I live in a two-story old like country house, and the entire top floor is like three bedrooms. Granted, none of them have doors, but those three rooms are mine. So I have a studio space. I really have an inclination for vintage clothing and discount fashion, we'll put it that way. So I have a whole room that's like a closet where I'll flip clothes and sell them online, and then a room that's my bedroom. And my portion of rent is only $250. Yeah. So I have one roommate who has like a full bedroom downstairs, and we have a living room, kitchen, bathroom, and that's why I won't leave. I drive to Columbus for work every day. Like the church that I go to, my commitment's there. I'm in Columbus, driving like almost like an hour 15 ish every day, but it's the gas doesn't even come close to the difference in rent, so it totally works out.
I actually know a girl in my hometown who has the closet and she flips things online, but she actually made a whole like Facebook show out of it, and she has a huge following. So like once a week, she like opens her closet and does like a guided tour and like sells things to people watching her live.
I wish I had the time and commitment for stuff like that. Oh, I tend to kind of like go in bouts of stuff. Like do big like cleaning spurts and kind of rearrange things, and I'll separate things out like things that I would potentially wear on tour for shoots, shows and stuff like that. And then kind of everything else turns into like a sale area. I have a few people around here who have vintage stores who will buy from me directly, and then when I'm kind of have more downtime at home, I'll do shoots and post everything, and yeah, it's fun stuff. I enjoy it. I like the finding the clothes, and then people getting excited when they get them and purchase them. But everything in between is kind of
Yeah, the in between part's almost never fun.
yeah.
Like right
But that's
now,
okay.
you're getting ready to release this new EP. Look at that transition. You're getting ready to release this new EP, and you're in that weird in between spot where it's like people know it's coming. There's some songs out there. People can hear something, but nothing's necessarily happening just yet.
Yeah, I have a really hard time with downtime. My like a friend of mine the other day, they were looking at me drinking a Red Bull can, and they were like, I've always wondered how it is that it seems like you're always going, like you're not comfortable doing nothing, but I think I finally get it. And I was like, really? What do you say? I just think something's wrong with me. And he was like, no, I'm pretty sure it's the copious amounts of Red Bull that you drink. And I was like, no, that's part of it for sure. But yeah, the in between time, I'm really excited for the new EP to come out, and it's it's always interesting to me as someone who used to just kind of like I used to run a Tumblr blog, and I would write something, demo it out, and then post it, a couple years ago. And to be able to like bring a new creative idea to fruition and share it so quickly while the idea was still fresh and the feelings were still active. So it's always an interesting process to write these ideas, and then a couple months later you get to go into the studio, develop them more, become more fond of them, more attached, and then this big waiting period of, okay, well, I can't tell anybody about these, and I can't show anybody these things. And then by the time those things come out, it's telling a story that's not even necessarily an active part of your life. So it's interesting to transition, especially with some of the stuff that this EP covers, because I'm putting out something that is saying this is the story of what I went through and what changed me, but I'm going to have to present it by saying I'm not there anymore. Enough time has passed that I'm past those things, which is that's what I think about in the downtime, I guess.
I think a lot of artists feel that way though, because you record, especially if it's something that really connects with people on an emotional level, because the album will come out and then you'll go out and play shows and people will come up to you and be like, I'm going through that right now. And a part of you is like, I'm so glad you connect with it. But another part of you is already on the other side of that journey. And you're like, okay, well, I'll see you on the other side. Like, I'll see you when you get to where I am. Wait till you see what's coming next.
Yeah. I think a lot of the new EP has content surrounding recovery from trauma. So that's something where so I've had a song or two that kind of touches on that in the past, and it was something where when we started touring and playing those songs for people, I was having a really hard time. Like after our first couple tours, when I came home, I felt really empty and just kind of had that mindset of like, well, once I get back out there, it's just because right now I feel like I'm not doing, what I always felt like I was supposed to be doing. But eventually I got to the point where we would go back on tour and that feeling wouldn't go away. And I realized it was because I was having consistent conversations with people about things that I wrote about and had gotten myself to a point where I just didn't really have to think about them or deal with them. But since I never properly dealt with any of those things, they were coming up on a daily basis, and I had to think about them. My brain was kind of pushing me into this hole. So this next EP was sort of like the one that's getting ready to come out. I thought about that a little bit more because I wanted to be able to present the parts of recovery that you always deal with, even if you are better, So I think it'll be interesting to see the kind of conversations I can have with people about that stuff. Real deep, real fast, from cats to trauma in 30 seconds or less.
That's what makes a good conversation.
Yeah.
I actually know I've talked to a lot of artists about this, and in the past it has been a thing that has led bands to change their songwriting, and sometimes it's from that exact recognition you just talked about. Like I remember the Wonder Years at one point when they were on Warped Tour, they had to stop doing the daily meet and greets with everybody because of the emotional toll of like every single day 500 kids coming up to you and being like, let me tell you the saddest thing about my life, and then going back on the tour bus and just having to sit with like not just one person's hard times and trauma, but like this avalanche that seemed to never stop happening. And they were like, okay, we got to step back and rethink how we're doing this and try to help find people find something more than like, let's just talk about it all the time. Now we need to focus on a little bit of recovery and like the idea of fighting through it rather than just ruminating on it, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that's really interesting when it comes to like the topic of trauma, especially in like assault or domestic abuse situations, a lot of victims who have been through that have been kind of put to this corner where they feel really isolated. And it's that stupid thing our brain does, or the even more stupid thing that other people do, where we get manipulated into believing that we are completely isolated and that we are alone in those experiences, so we don't want to talk about it. And then the shame factor, where we start to blame ourselves and think that it's our fault, makes us even less hesitant, and then therefore we feel more isolated, or more hesitant, sorry, I misspoke, makes us more hesitant to talk about it, and therefore we feel more isolated. So I think that having these conversations with people, even if it seems like I have to talk about something that is negative or bad experiences that these people have had on a daily basis, it's not necessarily a negative conversation, because you're resolving a big part of that issue and relieving some of that isolation. So that, I don't know, that's something I've always believed, where just because you're talking about something that's negative doesn't mean that the conversation has to have a negative impact. And being able to bounce from a dark place in a conversation and focus on the positive feelings and growth that can come from that, I think it's a mindset that my family definitely raised me to have, because they're a bunch of talkers. You stub your toe, we're going to talk about it for 20 minutes to make sure you're okay. But having that mindset instead of just focusing on how much, pardon my language, but shit sucks in the world, it's difficult. But when you get to that point, it makes all those conversations good, I guess.
I'm like you. I'm an over talker, and it's always weird to me when I realize that I'm interacting with somebody who's not or doesn't come from that world, and you're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know how to stop this. It just pours."
Wait, so you mean that there's a situation that was pretty seemingly meaningless and you don't want to have a 30-minute conversation about what led to it, why it happened, and how it's going to affect you for the rest of your life? That's ridiculous.
Exactly. You just let that go. Like you didn't just hold on to that for the next 3 to 5 days.
Wow, you're strong.
Yeah, I'm always envious. I'm like, how do you do this? What is this? Now,
Wait, you mean that you can stop thinking?
yeah, you just move on. What is this move on you speak of? I have to beat it into the ground.
Sorry, it sounds fake.
So tell me about the title of the EP, because when Joe at Take This to Heart told it to me, I was like, well, first he just showed it to me. Like I texted him, I think, and I was like, "What's the title of the EP?" And he just sent me the hyphen sign, and I was like, "I don't. What am I supposed to do with this?" So what made you settle on the name hyphen, or I guess using the symbol we can talk about as well, but like specifically the name of it, like what brought that about?
Okay, so a hyphen, if you look at the dictionary definition of what a hyphen is in the literary sense, it is something that represents a correlation between two things that might otherwise seem unrelated. So we have that definition. We also have the fact that, as dark as this sounds really quickly, when you die, you have on your tombstone, you just have that little hyphen, that little dash that sort of represents your entire life. So to me, I've always associated a hyphen with sort of a journey in that sense. But the EP, when you listen to it, there's a lot of repeating ideas. So the whole EP is sort of this map that people might miss the first time they listen to it, but there's a lot of the songs that lyrically reference each other. And it opens with a song that is diving straight into the trauma that I experienced and how that made me feel when I first started talking to people about it. And then the whole process is about me learning to be vulnerable, the things I was still struggling with that were a result of that relationship, even though I wanted to pretend that they weren't. And then it ends on a song that directly corresponds to the opening track to show where I am now, or at least where I was when I was writing this EP. So the hyphen is representative of that entire journey and also shows the correlation between a song that sounds pretty awful and terrible and then a song that sounds much better and positive and hopeful, because without the first one I would have never had the journey where I got to the second one. So I wanted to do just a symbol as it sounds like kind of like, oh, all the pop people, they want to do that, but it was something to me where I think that I also wanted the experiences that I'm portraying in these lyrics, even if they're very personal to me, I want people to be able to take them to heart in their own way. I didn't mean to accidentally reference the label there, but I wanted them to be able to interpret them and connect with them in a way that was personal and not necessarily completely written out for them. So I thought taking the title of the EP and having the symbol rather than it being, literally written out was something that also implied that I wanted people to have their own connection with it.
I think that's a wonderful answer. And not to make too lighthearted of the content of the record, but I will say that I laughed pretty hard at the title Jogging, just the way it's written in parentheses. It just, in my brain, I read it like when I tell myself I'm going to go work out or something and I'm not actually doing that thing. So I'd be like, I'm jogging right now, but really I'm sitting on my couch.
Yeah.
So what is that
No,
song
but
about? I guess most people haven't heard it yet, but what's the story behind that title?
So that is a pretty straightforward, to the lyrics there, because it's talking about going for a jog. And it's interesting because that song I actually I wrote with a friend of mine named Michael Smart, who I used to play in bands with when we were teenagers. And the reason I pulled it back was because him and I had so I was in an abusive relationship, which that has become somewhat of common knowledge for the people who are paying attention. And I can say that without it sounding like anything more than a factual statement to me at this point, which is something that a few years ago I definitely couldn't do. But after I got out of that relationship, I flew down to Florida, and him and I wrote and recorded a bunch of songs. And we had actually started working on that one like a year before, and it kept coming back up. And I remember when we developed it a little bit more and finished it there, I felt like it took on sort of a new life. And that whole song is about going really far and adamantly straightforward, kind of like blinders on in one direction because you think that's where you're supposed to go. But then once you get there and stop and look around, you realize that you were running the wrong way the entire time. And when I was reviewing songs for this EP, even though Jogging was originally written in like 2012, I brought it back up because it was a song that I kind of never let go of. And I realized that it was telling the same story that I wanted to tell in the EP, that, just because I was so focused and got so caught up in that relationship that was so wrong, it doesn't mean that I didn't have to learn anything from it, because I realized it was wrong, and I could, take in my surroundings, see where I am now, and then sort of reset myself. So it's cool to see how that song has come such a far journey, just like I have. But we actually played it on the last tour, and people were pretty responsive to it as well. So we didn't pick it for a single or anything, but yeah, I don't know. I don't want to. It's kind of a sneaky thing, but I have other plans for this explaining the punctuation associated with the different tracks of the songs and why. But I don't really want to tell people what they mean to me until people have a chance to listen to all the songs and figure out what it means to them.
Okay. I like it. I like it. A little mystery at the center of it all for someone who writes songs that are often very straightforward. And obviously, there is a very face value everything to it. But I like it. I like the layers.
Thank you. I like to be sneaky. I have a lot of Easter eggs. I've never said this on, any interviews or online or anything, but everything I've released so far, there are like Easter eggs hidden and stuff, and I'm still waiting for people to find most of them.
Now that it's out there, you're wishing this, you're actualizing this. It's gonna happen now. So
Well, I mean, I can tell you one if you
okay,
want to know one,
give me
because
one.
I know everybody uses like Spotify and stuff like that, so they don't necessarily look at album art very big. But if you look at the single art for No Lover, it's a picture of me in like a high chair, me as a cute little baby because I was adorable, had super chubby cheeks that I haven't quite gotten rid of, and if you look directly above my head, there's a picture in the background. And the picture that's in the background is actually the photograph of my grandparents. That was the Old Women EP album art.
Ooh, look at that. There you go. Now everyone out there, go find the other album, all the other Easter eggs in the world. Well, I have to
Yeah,
keep this
tons
up.
of tiny stuff like that. But
I love it. I have to keep this a little short today because I have to have another meeting. It's been one of those days. But I wanted to tell you that I first saw you last year, I think, at the Hot Mulligan release show in Lansing.
I'm so sorry.
No,
I'm
you were
just kidding.
great. You're so good. And it was so funny because I hadn't really heard your band before then, heard your music before then. And I think I've probably told more people about you since that time than maybe any other artist because I can't get your songs out of my head. So I was very excited to see the new EP coming, and it's great. And I've been sitting on being able to talk about it, so I'm happy we're talking now because I was just like, I'm ready. Like I am ready to have this conversation all over again with people. But I'm excited that there's something new coming that I can kind of share with the world and be like, look at this thing, or listen to it, I guess. But look at this thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
I was like,
You
do I
can say
say
thank
thank
you.
you and
It's a
interrupt and make
compliment.
him
No,
stop?
it's fine. No,
Oh my
it's
gosh,
always weird.
thank you
But
so much.
but we have I'm in a few group chats with like other writers and other journalists, and people will just randomly text each other. Like if someone gets offended to one other person, they'll tell them that they never took them to see the ocean. They'd be like, and on top of it all, you never took me to see the ocean, and that's like a recurring joke in our circles, in a way where it's like now you're lingo. It's like that's something you have to know to be in on the music writer circle.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I was gonna put out Valentine's Day cards this year as like a fun shop joke that we're just gonna say like I'd take you to see the ocean, Valentine, but I was like I don't have time to do this in the way that I would want to. So somebody else needs to do that and start an Etsy shop for me.
Yes, I mean we'll get this out before Valentine's Day, so maybe someone will listen and just throw it together for you, and you'll see it in your tweets next week, and you'll be like, there we go, bringing it to life, actualizing.
It's happening. Yeah, somebody could design that, please, and then they can sell prints and they can keep all the money. I don't care. I just want it to be a thing.
Well, I thank you so much for taking time to talk to me. The EP comes out on what day this month, just to make sure I get it right?
February 22nd, 2/22, baby. I'm so sorry. Oh no, I made a terrible joke and now the phone has gone dead.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Absolutely fine.
Okay, there you are.
That was me.
I ruined it.
No, you're so good. I just wanted to say that I hope that when you get to Michigan this year, we'll have a chance to hang out. We can maybe do a longer conversation of this, and I thank you for coming on today.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll be in Pontiac, Michigan on February 20 or wait. No. There's no February 29th this year.
No.
March 1st.
March 1st. Okay, I do not have anything on the books yet. I don't believe. I'm looking at my calendar now, so maybe we can make that happen.
Okay, I'll see you then.
All right, we'll show each other photos of our cats.
Exactly. Okay, well, thanks for chatting.
No problem. You have a great day.
Hey, you too. Bye.
Bye.